Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time. And as promised this morning, I had a super secret ninja guest coming on this afternoon, and it's Aaron Norris. How you doing, sir?
I'm so good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. I love having you on. We talk about real stuff. And not a lot of people can out geek me with data, but you put me to shame, right? The amount of data that you collect, you've been doing it for so long is really, really impressive. But before we get into all that, introduce who is Aaron Norris for the few that may not know.
Oh boy. Actor turned real estate nerd. I've been at the Norris Group for since '05.
Right.
So I've put in my fair share of time. I joined the Norris Group to help my dad put together the California crash. And then let's see, a little over a year ago, I joined Property Radar after knowing Sean for a long time to be part of their expansion nationwide and getting access to billions of public records. And my job there has been to work with the media to pull data on stories, as well as educate nationwide. I teach at investor clubs, mortgage, realtor on how to use Property Radar data over 200 fields to get better at closing deals.
There you go.
Nerdy.
Yeah, this is awesome. And again, I truly mean that. For most people, I talk data. I have certainly a college degree, and maybe they're at junior high. But you and I talk, I feel like I'm in kindergarten. Just your grasp of the data, the reach, your history is quite impressive. And I actually want to start this conversation with that California crash. First and foremost, it was a Norris Group meeting in Santa Clara. It was the San Jose real estate meetup, I think it was called, or Silicon Valley meetup. It was Geraldine's group. Mm-hmm. That was where I first came across your father. And it was talking about the California crash. At the time, I had six houses in a duplex. And I'm hearing your father talk about the California crash. It's still the heyday. He introduces a concept, which I give full credit in my book to, called the affordability index. And I'm like, I need to go figure that out. And your father is the guy that saved me. We did 1031 exchanges out of all of our units into apartments because they were underpriced. Go figure. And we were sitting in multifamily when the rug was pulled. So why don't you talk about the California crash? Because that came out and people had to be like, "Are you kidding me? Did he finally get one wrong?" It was an interesting time.
It is hard. At the time before I started working with my father, working on the crash, I had moved from New York. My mom had bone cancer, and it was just time for me to move back and to be with her. And I had got a job in a marketing position, doing worldwide bids on projects, like global projects for lighting, for architectural lighting design. So I really got into the construction of things. And I follow Las Vegas to this day. So in '05, '06, you talk to any builder and you said there's a chance of a slowdown, they would make fun of you.
They would laugh.
They would laugh in your face. Believe me, like one of the worst, the California Builders Association put together the Bear versus the Bulls. And 2 years in a row, they had Dad back. And the very first year, it was uncomfortable. They had an economist and they had Dad. And, they're living up life at the Nixon Library, drinking to life because it was good.
It was good. Yes.
They almost laughed him off the stage because he said at the time, if I were you as a builder, I would sell everything right now because you're going to be able to buy it for half off in a couple years. They were so rude, almost laughed him off the stage. However, they had him back the next year because things started to get a little
cracky.
Yeah. And they had at the time a UBS analyst come out who called him a squirrel chasing a nut. She was also very rude. Wow. And she was no longer with the company 6 months later. She went on. But anyway, it's uncomfortable when you're looking at the data and you get caught up in the emotion of any market. Sure. And California crash was Dad. It was so well researched. It was over 400 pages. It took us 2 full days to give because Dad is always like, here's the data. Yeah. If you can come up with a better solution, here's the data. This is what I've come up to. And this is what I'm doing with my money and with our clients' money.
I love that.
We are being more conservative. So that's why I've always loved my dad about that. He's very humble. He never assumes that he's done learning. Yeah. So I've learned a lot from that. And so I have never worked harder. That year that I came on at the Norris Group,
Right.
between the California crash, we also did the California Only Investor Series, where we took the concept of timing and what investors should be doing, because it changes in every market.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was a California crash, and I love hearing stuff like you said. That's one of my favorite parts of teaching, is hearing that you've impacted generations of people. That
absolutely
is so cool.
I mean, we'll just put numbers on it. We'll just, again, I want to give you and your father credit, right? So the first house we bought was on Norris Drive. I talked about it in the book. We bought it December 11th, 02. People, you can look it up on Zillow. 1818 Norris Drive East, 93703. We buy it for 107 grand. We sell it not 3 years later for 264. Right?
Yep.
Yeah. And oh, by the way, it rents for the same amount. Rents didn't move until after the crash. So again, it's an alligator. The person who bought it, I'm sure, had to pick a payment loan, all those things. But we sold, we didn't technically sell, we exchanged. We took that into a 5-unit building that we still own today. But the next 7 sales, it grew to 80 units. Your California crash took us from 8 units to 80 units, allowed us to survive. Sure, our net worth took a hit. I don't care. I don't spend my net worth. I was living on the cash flow. That exploded, right? That first house, because I did a stupid cash out refi, was negative $300, was an alligator, right? Net negative cash flow. It turned into $1,500 positive, which is an $1,800 swing in one transaction because of the California crash.
People don't realize too, my father is actually very conservative.
He
doesn't like to do anything crazy. So as he's meeting with people, he's not like, you need to we were meeting with people in 06, and they would come up because it was the first time that they heard anything negative.
Yeah.
And they were with specific groups that were going into, like, oh gosh, what was the zones out in Louisiana?
Yeah, remember after the hurricane? Yeah, the
zones.
Yeah.
And they're like, look at my portfolio. I'm upside down on every single one of these, and all these gurus are telling me just to take out more money and and over leverage, and I'm negative cash flow on every single one because it was an equity play. It was all an equity play.
Yeah.
So Dad, it was very uncomfortable, and people laugh in your face, and he had gotten it right before. A lot of people don't know he'd been doing market timing reports since 97. The California comeback he did in 97, and that was what put him on the map. He basically said, I know it's uncomfortable. We're at the bottom of the market and nobody loves real estate, but now's the time to get in.
Yes.
So by the time the crash came around, a few more people were listening. So it's been a fun ride. That report led us to meeting with the powers that be on Wall Street. We got to meet the guy who started the hedge fund. I mean, it was insane. It's been such a fun ride. And Sean too. Sean quit flipping to start Foreclosure Radar because he saw what was on the map. And when he and Dad met, that's how the friendship started.
Magic. The two powers that be, they test each other. Magic.
And Foreclosure Radar has now become Property Radar. It does a lot more than look at foreclosure data, which I know we'll talk about, because all you and I hear, you see these headlines. Oh, I'm so tired of reading these bubble articles, because I roll my eyes.
So let's talk about it, because I wanted to have this conversation because, again, the data geeks as we are, and oh, by the way, we're data geeks who've been doing it for more than 20 years. So it's not like we've been in that just 2 minutes. We've seen a crash. We know what it feels like. Do you see anything that's set up that's anything similar to what we were experiencing last time at all?
No, people are still having to
say that again, please. What's the answer?
No. People are still having to qualify. So the headlines right now are like, foreclosures are exploding. They're going up by 100% because they've been 0.
Yeah, there were 3.
They're 1,
they're
and now they're 2. Yeah, exactly. And what's frustrating is those are foreclosures that should have happened in March of 2020. They just got postponed.
Yeah. So life happens to everybody. You get a divorce, you get a health crisis. Sometimes that's the out. That's the out.
Well, and I challenge everybody listening to this. Okay, so you're going to foreclose. You always are dealing with people having to deal with death, disease, divorce, drugs. You got it. Okay. Let's say you bought in 2020 with 3% down. Yeah. How much equity are you sitting on right now?
Probably 25%.
Correct. It's not a foreclosure. It's a forced sale. It's not even a short sale. Chances are
you're going to get a check.
Correct.
You're getting a check at closing. You are selling that thing.
Sorry, my lights. I'm on exactly. So it makes me laugh when people say that. I'm like, no, there's there's not even short sales or foreclosures. It's just a forced sale. So
let's talk about it, because again, I've gone back and I've tried to battle these nincompoops who talk about like a crash that's coming and 40% drops and all of this stuff. I'm like, okay, let's just look at the data. The biggest one for me is adjustable rate mortgages.
Correct.
2006, the numbers that I found, of all the mortgage originated in 06, 50% of them were adjustable. And 14% of them were pick-a-payment loans. Fast forward to July of 2021, which is the last month I have data for. 2% were adjustable rate mortgages and 0 were pick-a-payment loans.
Yeah.
Can you remind us why that's important?
Because that was the reason. You also had investors lying, say that they were able to get a loan, getting into properties they never should have been into to begin with, negative cash flow. It's just those loan programs don't exist.
People are qualifying.
And even hard money lenders are not nuts. I think COVID also had a lot of Wall Street lenders learn some crazy lessons. When COVID first hit, I was called by somebody who had a $250 million portfolio that they had put on a margin line or a credit line. They had to get rid of. So they were trying to sell first trust deeds on flip loans, but it's nuts. Even they've learned to be more conservative. So no, none of those loan programs exist. And it's just, how are you going to have a huge drop? And builders too. Builders are not overbuilding right now. They're building to suit.
Yeah, they're like doing a big build is 10 units, not 100 units.
And most of them have not been building out, entire neighborhoods and then doing a launch party and have, people buy. Oh, you want to buy it? Great. You get to select which one and we'll start building it once you put a down payment. They're building to suit. They're not building entire neighborhoods out. So a lot of things has just really, really changed. And my problem is that the media is definitely playing a role in this. You have a lot of very experienced, and it's not their fault. A lot of journalists covering real estate these days have no background. They've not been through any cycles. And I've been in the business for over 15 years now. And a lot of the people that I've worked with over the years that specialize in real estate from the journalist perspective, they've retired. So they don't get to focus just on real estate. They don't understand cycles or even being in a specific state for a cycle. They're covering stocks, bonds, mutual funds, real estate.
Yeah, exactly.
And local theater. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, the biggest one I hear people that just drives me bananas. This one really irks me is they pull up a price chart and, it goes like this, right? And right now in 2021, we are above, Aaron, I don't know if you know this, but we are above 2006 peaks. And, and because of that, we have to be set up for a crash.
Right. And
of course.
But during the last cycle in California, you were at what, a 6% mortgage rate?
Yeah, 6.5, 6.57. Right. I looked it up.
Incomes have gone up since then. And
15 years, you would think. Yeah.
Yep. And the numbers are only going to increase from here.
Oh, absolutely.
Some data that I saw shows that people that are on the lower socioeconomic rung are leaving the state. So that's going to push the median income up, which is going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah.
You've got interest rates even for real estate investors that start with a 4.
Yeah, crazy. It's just nuts.
It is super nuts. I agree with you. And I don't see investors doing anything that would concern me. A lot of the investors that I know that even were doing high-end flips got a little uncomfortable a few years ago. And they're just being more conservative. So
yeah. Well, I guess the one thing that we've never dealt with before is the eviction moratorium. That's a new wrinkle.
Yeah.
Right? We didn't experience that last time. I do think there are some landlords who have been asked to carry the burden that could potentially look to sell now. Also, there's obviously talk of increased taxes, whether or not they're retro or not is interesting. So I do think there's going to be some landlords, specifically people who bought in the early 90s or 80s, that are like, you know what, I'm done. But A, how big is that market? It's not very big. B, what are they likely going to do? They're likely going to remove the tenant. They're going to clean up the unit and then sell the thing for top dollars, right? It's an owner-occ sale, not a rental. And you're just lowering the supply of rentals. So it's crazy.
I do know quite a few investors that are getting out of the business here in California because, well, I'm one of them. I've been 1031 exchanging into Florida into brand new houses because this is my first full cycle. I'm a retired actor from New York City, and this is my first full cycle as a landlord. And, I have condos that have quadrupled in price.
Right.
Actually, Tony Alvarez, this was funny. My father got rid of a project in Rosamond, California. He built, I think, 93 homes up there, and we auctioned the last two properties in that market for over 200 grand. Tony Alvarez ended up buying some of those houses that dad built for 30 grand. These were 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom properties that are now selling for 300 grand in Rosamond. Rosamond is like 2 hours outside of LA.
Yeah.
So you have some investors who have experienced a 10x in California, and they're like, yeah, I'm good. It's done its job.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm good.
So they're moving into states where they can get into newer inventory, things that cash flow. I'm very conservative built like my father. So I've loved getting rid of some of my older stuff and 1031 exchanging into brand new single family. I'm so tired of HOAs as well.
Yeah.
So I've gotten rid of the majority of my condos.
Yep.
So it's been a fun ride. So California has just done its thing. The cash flow is harder. So you're right. I don't think unless investors are really getting into these opportunities of upzoning and construction and accessory dwelling units, the cash flow isn't really making sense here in California like it used to. So they are going to other states. So yeah, I think there could be a chance if the state doesn't start working on some of the programs we'll talk about later, we'll have as many single family rentals.
Yeah. So I'm curious, given that you are actually executing this now, I'm curious, as a landlord, are you removing the tenant, polishing it, selling it to an owner occ, and then 1031ing, or just selling as is?
Selling as is. So the last condo, I did a little bit of fix up, but
was it tenant occupied or not? I guess.
Yeah, it was tenant occupied.
Oh, it was, okay.
And they were moving out anyway. No, actually, the last one I told her, you know what, I really need to sell this. A part of it is because I'm dealing with cancer, and I had a pretty bad diagnosis early on, so I was trying to be conservative as well for my partner in crime. So I just, yeah. But I've had some tenants in there, but they move out. I had another one just move out, but I've decided to keep it. It was built in 2005. It's in San Jacinto. Here, get this. 5 years ago, I rented to them for $1,450.
Okay.
And I knew that I probably wouldn't be able to be very aggressive pushing rents up, and I didn't. And I am shocked. It's going to rent for $2,300.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, I felt stupid, but I also like keeping tenants really long term.
Yeah, the turns kill you. Yeah,
the turns kill me. So I'm one of those guys. It cash flowed at $1,450, so at $2,300, it's like all bonus. So I'm like, I'll keep it. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
And I said I had a friend go out there to look if I could build an ADU, and I could, but it's not ideal. It's just perfect in the middle of the lot, and it would be hard to do. And I created the word cramlord. Don't be a cramlord. Don't try to squeeze in extra fair square footage and ruin the look and feel, design, and possibly the value of your property because you're just trying to squeeze in another rental.
Yeah.
I don't want to ruin the neighborhood, so I'm leaving it.
There you go. Well, any other thoughts about the California crash, what we're at today? Because we are going to talk about 2 more topics shortly.
Just don't buy into the hype. You know, the media is going to sensationalize any point of data. You are the local expert. And you know what? A lot of us are having very different experiences depending on the counties that we work in. I think we as investors have to get far more sophisticated, plugging into the needs of our local community, plugging into the planning boards and commissions, and understanding what the goals are of the community, because it's very different from San Francisco to San Diego to Riverside, Sacramento. We're all in very different parts of the market, and you've got to be the expert.
There you go, Aaron. Thank you very much for this. If people want to reach out or follow you along the way, how would you like them to do that?
Oh, geez, propertyradar.com, or the norrisgroup.com. I'm in the background, and I'm still not working technically. I probably won't be back into the fray until November. So this is just a fun little interview, getting to do stuff because I'm bored. Yeah. And we like talking about real estate. So I love it. I miss it.
There you go. Thank you, Aaron.
All right.